So good morning, everyone. I hope you're all coming for this talk, because it was a last-minute change in schedule. If you expected another talk, you can still run away quickly. So I'm going to talk about Amazon's Alexa for voice recognition. And of course, I have to disable it, else it keeps on listening.
By Richard L. Clevens explains about voice recognition and its underlying technology,
Alexa, stop.
applications, and future direction.
Stop. Okay, let's turn it off for now. It's not that I work for Amazon or anything. I work for a company called InfoSport, and we basically build software for various companies. And I like to try out new things. And one of the things, of course, is voice recognition. I'm not saying that Amazon has the best solution or that it's better than Google or any other, like Apple. It's just one of the first ones that came out, and I like playing with it, and it worked pretty well with Java, as we will see later. So I basically will give an introduction about the possibilities that you maybe as a developer have to work with Amazon's Alexa and to have a bit of fun with it. But most of the practices probably also apply to the other voice recognition services. So, voice recognition. What are we going to talk about? A little bit about the Internet of Things and home automation. Then a bit about how Alexa works, how we can use openHAB for home automation in combination with Alexa to automate our home. I will show you how you can create your own skills for Alexa, and skills are basically the same as apps for your smartphone. It's basically adding functionality to the voice recognition system. If you have any questions, you can also ask them in between if you want. You don't have to wait until the end. So what's the Internet of Things? Basically, it's something with a computer, a chip on board. Mostly it's connected to the internet or to some kind of network to communicate. But I often have seen examples that were a bit like this. To give you an example, I was at a conference and some guy gave a presentation about a light that he had created, and based on the colors, you could see what the temperature was in the room or the humidity. So for people who cannot read digits or have some problems, maybe young people or elder people, based on the colors, they could see what the environment status was. And I thought that's a really cool idea. So almost towards the end of the presentation, somebody asked, like, yeah, okay, so this gives a nice color and it's a nice idea, but how does it fit with Internet of Things? Because it was labeled as an Internet of Things solution. And then the presenter told, like, yeah, it's not really connected to anything, it's just a light, and actually at this point in time, it just randomly changes colors. So I was like, okay, so I spent like 45 minutes listening to a talk about changing color slides. And you brand it as Internet of Things, so people come and listen to it. So be aware if something is labeled as Internet of Things, that it's really something interesting, or somebody that is basically doing a lot of marketing around a shitty product. So what is Internet of Things? There is some kind of a definition about it. Probably if you Google for it, you can find even more definitions about it. And what I found interesting is how does home automation fit into the solution? And so with home automation, traditionally, maybe first ask a question to all of you. Who has automated their home in one way or the other? Okay, cool, few hands. And how do you control it? By smartphone? Who's already controlling it by voice? Okay, cool, already a few people, nice. And so traditionally we see that home automation mostly is done by smartphone or tablet or something like that. And so what kind of things can we control? Often lights are controlled, or maybe the temperature in your living room. But I actually got a nice example from a colleague of mine about what was possible. So let's put on that video. So basically my colleague had two rooms, a bedroom and a living room, and only one television. Of course you cannot, oh wait, the video is not working. Let's see. If this goes better. Run the video again. Oh. So again, two rooms. One television. Of course, you can ask, wasn't it cheaper to buy two televisions? Of course, but this is more fun. And he could even control it remotely. My colleague is from Belgium, and he gave this presentation in the Netherlands, and he could control it. So this is an application basically to show you that you can automate basically anything. I also asked him, like, okay, this is cool, but in the summer, can you make it spin quickly so you can use it as a fan? But he didn't try that yet. So for me, like, home automation is basically, it's a subset of IoT. It's the things that you do within your home or around your home. And there are some challenges if you want to do home automation. If you control it with your phone and you have to charge your phone, then it's difficult. And with this phone, you probably have some more difficulties because it's really old. And I don't know how many of you broke their phone in the last, like, 5 years. I guess most people did that. And then you cannot control your home anymore. And I've seen people who even control their doors with voice recognition so that you can say, open my door, and the lock goes off. But, I mean, if you do that with your smartphone and your smartphone is broken, you cannot enter your home anymore, which is a bit of a pity. I don't want to say that with voice recognition it's the best solution, because then a burglar can also come in if he can say the exact same words. But with a phone, it's a bit annoying. And next to that, I mean, often you have a discussion, or maybe it's only in my family. I have a discussion. I don't agree with my kids or with my wife. And then, of course, you want to look it up on Wikipedia or Google, your best friends. But it's a bit rude to go looking on your smartphone during dinner, and your food gets cold, which is also quite a bit of a pity. So it's a bit annoying if you have to use your smartphone for things like this. And next to that, if you're laying on the couch comfortably and you want to change something in your room and your smartphone is laying somewhere else, you have to get off the couch, and it's all difficult. So for me, smartphones, they're a bit like Batman. They were cool in the past, but they had their best days. There are some better solutions now. And one of those solutions is Amazon's Alexa voice recognition service. And you can buy hardware off the shelf for it. This is called an Echo Dot, a little machine which basically listens to what you say. So Alexa is not like a woman or a guy sitting somewhere and typing really quickly if you ask something. It's running in the cloud. Basically, it's a huge AI environment which can do all kinds of things for you. So to basically show a few things, I can ask things like, Alexa, Wikipedia, Java programming language.
Here's the Wikipedia article on languages of Israel. The Israeli population is
stop.
linguistically and culturally
Alexa,
diverse.
stop. Alexa, Wikipedia, Java programming language.
Here's the Wikipedia article on Java, the programming language. Java is a general-purpose programming language that is class-based, object-oriented.
Alexa, stop. And so we can ask it for information for Wikipedia, but you can do all kinds of things with it. I can also ask, for instance, Alexa, play TuneIn Radio.
Getting the last TuneIn station you listened to, Dance FM.
And you can ask all kinds of useful questions, like, Alexa, where is Chuck Norris?
If Chuck Norris wants you to know where he is, he'll find you. If he doesn't, you won't know until it's too late.
Alexa, stop. And so there are all kinds of things that you can ask. And what you saw was that I can let it play the music. I use TuneIn Radio. You can also couple it with Spotify and other stuff. And in between, I can ask other questions. And it will simply pause the music while it gives the answer, and then it will continue with the music. So it's a nice way to basically do all kinds of things in your room, which you previously did with your smartphone or your tablet or anything like that. When this came out, or they had an even bigger one come out in the first place, I was really interested in it because it's something that works off the shelf, and I'm a developer. I like to play with stuff. I like to create stuff. And if something works out of the box, what's the fun of that? I mean, I can't waste any time on it. That's not good. But after a while, they released instructions where you could basically buy your own Raspberry Pi and install the same software, more or less, that's running on this machine on your Raspberry Pi. And it was basically a Java application that you could run on your Raspberry Pi. You connect a microphone to it, a speaker to it, and then basically it does the same as this little fellow. I added a touchscreen to it because it's a touchscreen. It's cool, right? And later Amazon also released a touchscreen, so probably they stole the idea from me. And so there is an official guide for it, which you can use to install it. One of the things that are interesting about it is the software, you can look at it and you can manipulate it yourself. It's open source software. So if you're concerned about your privacy, concerned that Amazon is always listening to what you say, you can look up in the source code and maybe tweak it to whatever your needs are. It's completely customizable. So the thing was, when I started this endeavor, there was like the big Echo Dot, which costed like $200. I created the setup myself for like $80, $90. I was like, okay, that's a nice business case. And 2 weeks later, Amazon released a new Echo Dot, which was $50. So price-wise, it's probably not the best solution. Time-wise, it's also not the best solution because it takes a bit of time to set up everything. In the end, it worked nicely. It will cost you a bit more money, but the big advantage is you have all the flexibility. You can connect whatever you want. You can do whatever you want with it. So you have full flexibility. Probably for most of you, I wouldn't try this at home. One of the disadvantages, however, is that the hardware in this little box is really advanced. I think there are like 5 microphones in it with noise reduction algorithms, and it's way more advanced than my Raspberry Pi solution. So it was nice playing around with the Raspberry Pi, but in the end, this is way better than what you can do yourself for the same amount of money. It's not achievable, basically. And so then I was like, okay, how can we fit this in for home automation? And I didn't automate my home, or didn't automate a lot in my home, but a colleague basically automated almost his entire home, and he controlled it with his smartphone as well. And I asked him, okay, can you try to couple Alexa to your existing solution? So I'm going to show a video of how he did that. I think sound is off, or is it from? My sound is on max.
Can you use the speaker? Maybe it's better.
No, it's yeah. Doesn't matter. We'll do it without sound. I'll just explain it. So my colleague is talking to the Echo Dot, and basically it's connected to openHAB, which we will look at in a second. And he uses it to control, for instance, his sunscreens. Sunscreens go up, sunscreens go down. So he had the solution on the right, the openHAB solution, he already had it. And he simply added the Echo Dot. He controls the lights in his living room. So basically anything he could control before, he can now control it with Alexa. And he can still see the status changes in openHAB. So you can combine it. You can do voice recognition and using your smartphone or tablet at the same time, basically. So maybe you prefer voice recognition, your partner prefers using a tablet, that's perfectly fine. And the funny thing is, like, I don't know exactly how much time he spent on it. It was just a few hours, and it worked. So it's not that you have to invest a lot of time to add voice recognition to an existing home automation solution. So let's have a look at what's openHAB. So openHAB is a Java-based solution to create home automation solutions. It's in Dutch, but probably you can notice the symbols quite clearly. It's like lights, temperature, sound. So everything is controlled with this interface. I couldn't bring the sunscreens with me or all the lights, so I made a bit of an easier setup. I used this TP-Link smart plug, which basically is a plug that I can control over Wi-Fi and turn it on or off. And there is one on top of here, so I can demonstrate it here. So if it's on, you can see that here there is a green one. Sorry, the one at the bottom is green. And if it's off, then you don't see it green anymore. So if I demonstrate it, I put my laptop plug inside it, so you can see that it's charging or not. Let's see, is it charging now? Yes, it's charging. So if I now say, Alexa, trigger switch off.
Sending that to IFT.
And now it's off, and also the icon shows you that it's really off. If I say, Alexa, trigger switch on. Oh, Alexa, trigger switch on.
Sending that to IFT.
So now it's on. So this is like a really simple scenario, but for the rest, it's the same. You either put things on or off, or maybe you put the lights on a certain percentage to dim the lights or something like that. To make this solution, you already heard it. They said, okay, I'm sending the command to IFT, and IFT is a service called if this, then that. And what it basically does is, I can define an action, and if that action occurs, then another action will happen. So in my case, if I say Alexa trigger switch off, then a command is being sent to openHAB to basically trigger it. There are lots of ways for it. If this, then that, by the way, it's a free solution. And you can add any commands to it. So I created a few applets. I have the Alexa triggers, but I also have like the to-do list. With Alexa, you can maintain a to-do list, and I have to enable it, of course. Alexa, add shopping to my to-do list.
I've added shopping to dog to your to-do list.
Or I can say, Alexa, trigger email.
Sorry, I don't see that if trigger.
Alexa, trigger mail, not email.
Sending that to IFT.
And so now, in a while, I receive an email. I don't know how quickly it is. These were the ones I tested before, and now I got the 2 new ones. So basically, you can couple almost any action together. There's a huge list of basically websites or applications that you can basically read and then perform another action. And again, it's all for free, so it's quite a nice solution if you want to basically couple stuff together. So how does this work in detail? Basically, what I do is I go from my Echo Dot to the Alexa cloud. And that's something to remember. I mean, this device, it's pretty advanced, but it doesn't do anything without the cloud. So every command you say is being sent to the cloud. I say the wake word Alexa, and after that wake word, all the information is sent to the cloud, processed there, and then the result is being returned later. So you also always need an internet connection for it. So I go to the Alexa cloud, then I go to the if this then that service, which connects to my openHAB, which basically is a service to make your openHAB instance available on the internet, because openHAB, it's running on my Raspberry Pi here. From my openHAB, it connects to the Raspberry Pi where openHAB is running on, so this little fella, and then it sends a command through Wi-Fi to my smart plug. So it's a bit of a advanced. It's quite simple, but it uses quite a few hubs on the internet. The first time I demoed this, the founder of openHAB was in the room, and he was like, okay, that you dare to demo all this live? And I was like, why? You don't trust your own software? So mostly it works quite well, especially at home. Sometimes at a conference, if you have some Wi-Fi issues, it's a bit difficult. But at home, normally it's instant replies. Demo, we already saw the demo. One other way, so I used if this and that basically to add functionality to my Alexa. One other way to add functionality to Alexa is through the skills, which I mentioned before. And again, a skill is basically like an app for your smartphone. There are a lot of skills, and you can do all kinds of things with it, such as, for instance, to order pizza, to call websites. All kinds of default skills are available. There is some kind of a store which you can use to install skills for your devices, but you can also create your own skills. And actually, there is an Alexa home automation skill which you can use to directly couple from Alexa to openHAB. So you don't need to use IFT for this solution, but I found it nice to show the solution anyway. And so I want to dive a little bit into how you can create those skills, because I think that's interesting. If you're a developer, you can create those skills yourself, and it's relatively easy to do that. And then you have your own voice recognition application. To do that, we need to learn a little bit about the terminology which is being used. So normally we will say something like Alexa, ask, tell, and Alexa is the wake word. There are a few predefined wake words, such as Alexa, I think Amazon, computer, and you can choose between those. You cannot choose your own one. can be convenient, like my colleague who automated the sunscreens and everything. The kid from his neighbors is called Alexa, and it's a bit strange if you start yelling, Alexa, stop, then it's better to use another wake word. But normally, by default, it's Alexa. Second thing that we say is, the invocation name, which is basically the name of your skill. Here I call it first skill. I noticed this morning that they changed it. Nowadays you have to use 2 words for the invocation name, but it works for the same. So basically this is to trigger Alexa to call your skill. And then we want to do something in that skill. We basically want to provide some arguments to it, and that's what we call the utterance or the samples. And in this case we say Alexa ask tell, first skill, and we can say stuff in between, such as Alexa ask tell first skill to say hello. So let's see if it works. Alexa, ask first skill to say hello.
Hello from my first skill, which is build at Java 1.
You notice there's quite a delay. Now let's try it again. Alexa, ask first skill to say hello.
Java 1.
Now you notice it's nearly instant, or maybe even instant. I didn't even notice the delay. It's not that the device is caching stuff. The reason is that the skills, I host them in AWS Lambda, which is a serverless solution. And if you don't use it for like half an hour, it will be passivated to disk. So then the first time I'm using it again, it will be retrieved from disk. Java will have to boot, and then it will give the answer. So the first time it takes a bit longer, and then you can use it quickly until it's not being used for half an hour again. If you don't want that, you can of course send a request every half an hour to keep it up and running, but then it might cost you a bit more in the end. I see a hand. Good question. So the question is, can I use different languages? Indeed, you can use, I think, Python, JavaScript, I think C#, you can use it, Java. I think they have like 7 languages or even more. So most of the time you can find a language that you like. If you use JavaScript, you could even put it in like in the website and it works instantly. And the advantage of JavaScript is also that it doesn't have to boot the JVM, so it will take less time to respond. Yes? Then we work with things which are called intents, and intents is basically used within the application, and we can have several utterances under one intent, and the intents are the things which we work with. So maybe it's time to simply show some code which hopefully makes it a bit clearer. So let's look at the Hello World skill. So we define what we call a model, and this we will also upload this one. I will also show you in a second how you can do this yourself. So in the model, I define the invocation name, and I define the intents. And I can have one or more intents, and I can make samples or utterances. So basically, these two are mapped to the Hello World intent. And if we then look at the code, which, oh, wait, this one. No, this one. So we can see here that this piece of code will handle every request for the Hello World intent. So if I say, and let's put this back, hello or hi, it will both be executed by the same piece of code which is shown here. And what we will do in this case is we will say what the return text is, and we will basically return that text with speech, and we say with simple card hello world, and what that will do we will see in a second. So this is all the code except for a little bit of maintenance code which you see here that you have to write to create your first Hello World voice recognition application, which I think is fairly simple. You don't have to care anything about how the voice recognition is being processed. You simply say which words you expect. And the card thing which you saw here, so speech is basically the stuff that's being returned as speech by Alexa. With simple card, oh, don't listen. What Simple Card does is it gives some more information. So some devices, they have a UI with it. If you have the Alexa tablet, you can use Alexa with it, and then it also displays information. So here, I can see the alexa.amazon.com. I can see more or less the same information. So when I say, enable it, Alexa, what's the weather in Amsterdam?
Currently, in Amsterdam, Netherlands, it's
Alexa,
8 degrees
stop. So this is basically the information which is retrieved from the card command. So in my code, if I use the card command, I can supply any information that I want to make visible in any UI application. It's not mandatory to give this information, but it's quite convenient because you can see if everything works correctly. This basically is more or less your logbook. I can see all the commands that I've given in like the last, I don't know how many times, like where's Chuck Norris and all kinds of interesting commands. So if you start playing with it, I can really recommend you to use this portal, alexa.amazon.com, to see how Alexa is processing everything for you. Nope. And so this is like a really, really basic skill to show you how it works. If we dive in a little bit further, so this is a bit more advanced example. In this case, my invocation name is demo. I have a few different intents, such as the hello world intent, a color intent. I supply some samples. So let's start. Let's see, where's the light team? Someone who knows where it is out of the top of his head? No one knows where the light team is? I never use it, so normally it's not an issue. It's better now? Cool, thank you. So I have the hello world intent, and if I look at the source code, so I have my demo stream handler. This is like what you normally just copy paste, and I can supply the different request handlers that I have. So I have a handler for hello world, for cancel and stop, for hello name, and for color request handler. Hello world is here, and it will simply reply hello world. So if I say something like Alexa, tell demo to say hello.
Hello, Donald.
That was not what I expected. Alexa, ask demo to say hello.
Hello, world.
Hello world. I don't know why it said Donald. I mean, Trump owns Amazon these days or something like that. And next to that, I created what is called a color intent. So basically, I can supply a color. And there's some interesting things in here, a bit more advanced than the hello world part. So it handles, in this case, the color intent, which is shown at the right top. And what it will do, it will process the slots, so-called slots. It will retrieve the color that I mentioned. And then it will simply say, you picked the color, blah, blah, blah. So if I say, Alexa, tell demo the color is red.
You picked the color, red.
Alexa, sorry. The color is blue.
You picked the color, blue.
So you see, it keeps on listening. Before, I had to say Alexa every time. Now I can simply say, the color is red.
Red.
And I can say cancel.
Hello world.
And not completely what I expected, but so basically I'm in a conversation within my skill. I don't have to say Alexa and the name of my skill every time. I'm simply in the conversation. And to do that, it's not that I have to write a lot of code for it. What I simply say is, let's see, where is it? Oh yeah. Which should end session false. and then the session, basically, it keeps on continuing until I say that it should be cancelled. So if you know a few things about the API, you can already use these conversation mechanisms. And another cool thing that I don't know if you already saw it, but for the colors, I supply a list of colors. So the list of colors, it's displayed over here. So I can say, Alexa, tell demo the color is red.
You pick the color, red.
The color is brown.
You pick the color, null.
Okay, my pronunciation is not correct. The color is purple.
You pick the color, purple.
Stop.
See you next time.
Yeah, that works better. So the strange thing you noticed here is that I can mention colors that I didn't specify before. So this is not like exact words that are being used. It's basically like to give a hint. And the hint is, as long as it's one word, it's okay. So if I use colors which consist of two words, such as, for instance, Alexa, tell demo the color is dark red.
You pick the color, red.
It simply skips the dark. Cancel.
You pick the color, null.
Oh, sorry. Stop.
See you next time.
And so the stop request is also, or the cancel intent or stop intent, it's built in. So I can use those to stop, and I can display, or I can say a specified text that I specified myself. So that's how I can basically, if I'm in a conversation, I can stop the conversation and I can continue. So we now saw that we can use like one-word colors, but maybe you want to have like double-word colors, and I will show you a bit more about how it works later, but let's simply change this for now. So there is an Alexa developer console, and this basically is where we specify our skills. So if you add a new skill, which we will do in a second, then it is being added here. And what I can do here is, for the color intents, let's see, where are the colors? Slot types, these ones. If I say here dark blue, and I build the model again, takes a little bit of time. Oh, I should have pushed that one as well. I can tell you a bit more while we're waiting here. So basically what's going on here is we can specify everything here, like the invocation name, etc., which we also saw in the JSON file before. I can also upload the JSON file by using the JSON editor. Then I can just make a copy locally and upload it here. And at the end, I specify an endpoint. So this basically is where my code is running. That could be some AWS Lambda. It could also be your local server or your other server in the cloud, and you can connect through HTTPS. So that's basically how it's coupled together. You have the skill running, or you have some application running somewhere. You define a skill in the developer portal from Amazon, so this portal, which you connect to your application, and then you can use it. I think it was done. Alexa, tell demo the color is dark red. Alexa, tell demo the color is dark red.
You pick the color, dark red.
Okay, almost. Stop.
Hello world.
Stop. Okay, so this way I can easily basically give some idea of, you have to say more or less these words, but it doesn't have to be the exact word. I think you get the idea. So this question we already answered before. You can use different languages, run it basically anywhere. It works like this. So we go to the Alexa Cloud. The Alexa Cloud uses the information from the developer portal, and then it connects to AWS Lambda or your own server. Normally, if you want to deploy it, you can go to the web interface, and you can basically upload a jar file or a zip file or anything like that. But it's a bit annoying because you have to go to the web interface every time you make a small change. So I like to not use that one and basically deploy it automatically, which you will see in a second. But one thing you need to keep in mind is that normally, if you deploy your application in AWS Lambda and somebody knows the location of your application in AWS Lambda, then everybody can use it. So what you have to do is you have to make sure, so here everybody can use your AWS Lambda application. You have to make sure that it's connected to your specific skill. So how do you do it? Basically, within the code you write for your application, you say with skill ID, and then you enter the specific ID of the skill. So you basically couple them together to make sure that nobody else is using your AWS Lambda or your own server. This is something you should really do. So how do we automate this? I automated it with Maven, a Maven plugin. And what I do now is, one time I had to create an S3 bucket in Amazon, which basically is storage within Amazon. And I had to define an AWS role, basically a security role, which could retrieve something from the bucket and install it in AWS Lambda. And with this solution, I can basically say Maven with the command and enter my AWS credentials, and then it will automatically deploy my application to AWS Lambda. So that's a lot better. I even used it a bit more advanced to connect through my Lambda application and then through the Amazon API to a Spring Cloud example. So you can even run Spring Cloud applications within AWS Lambda and connect them together. Therefore, you need to use the API gateway to make sure that your Lambda skill is accessible over HTTP. So how do you test skills? That was something I was really wondering, because you can write unit tests, but it doesn't say anything. You saw that I need to configure a lot of stuff in all kinds of cloud environments, so a unit test won't tell me if something works. So I came up with a solution basically to make one Alexa device talk to another device, and then basically do testing. So it expects a certain response, and it records the responses and matches if they are correct or not. Unfortunately, a little thing was changed in the API, so it doesn't work at this point in time. Amazon sometimes changes some things, and then you also need to change your stuff. So unfortunately, this doesn't work. But I think it's quite a nice solution to test if your skill is working in an integrated environment. If you want to see the examples, so everything I've shown, and also like the Spring Boot stuff I've not shown, but it's available here in my Git repo, including the Maven configuration and everything. So that's a nice way to get started. You can also follow the official examples, but it doesn't have the Maven integration. So what do you do if you want a new feature? I would say try to use an existing skill. If not, try if you can integrate it with IFT, because that's relatively simple. And third option is create your own skill. Or if you just want to have fun and play around with skills, then of course it's also a nice solution. So what are disadvantages? It's still really in the learning phase. It's only available in a few languages. It's not available in Dutch, which I speak, so that's a bit of a pity. Some countries it's hard to get these devices. If you have a bit of an accent, it's annoying. It won't understand you. I mean, if we Google for something and we put in a lot of garbage, spelling mistakes and stuff like that, grammar mistakes, we still get a nice result back from Google. Alexa will ignore you. It will simply say nothing or a complete random response, which basically doesn't help you. So that's a bit of annoying. And some people are a bit privacy concerned. I got a remark earlier, like, what if Amazon is listening all the time? Some people already did some tests with it, and I think it's relatively okay, but sometimes it has the tendency to go on at some point in time, which is a bit strange. And so other security things that I don't like is that it's not working per voice. So it will react to my voice the same as to my kid's voice. And in America, they have, for some pizza vendor, they have a pizza application where you can say, Alexa, order lost pizza again. If my daughter would say that 10 times, I would end up with 10 pizzas. And a nice bill, because it's coupled to my credit card. And so that's still a bit of a disadvantage. Advantages, it's not only new and cool, but it's also quite useful. I mean, my colleague, when he first brought it home, his partner was like, oh no, not another gadget. What do I have to do with it? And I think he had it for like 2 weeks. And then his partner said, can we buy one as well? Because it's working really conveniently. So you get used to it really quickly, and it's quite useful. And I think it will destroy smartphones, at least partly. So for the conclusion, I think it's relatively easy to integrate and work with. I would have thought that doing voice recognition stuff was quite hard. I did it at university, programmed my own voice recognition stuff, which is impossible, basically. But with Amazon, yeah, you only have to do like really quite simple Java code, which you're used to as a developer already. You just have to learn a bit about the API. And so it's quite fun to play around with, create some nice examples with voice recognition and a bit of hardware. At least I like to play with a bit of hardware next to it. So that was it. I think we have 2 minutes left for questions. Yes?
I have 2 questions. The first one is... I have 2 questions. The first one is, okay, if I have my own business now and I want to introduce a vocal recognition to access my APIs, whatever, why I have to choose Alexa instead of Google Mini, instead of whatever else? So the first question is that one. The second, if my APIs are under sessions or under authentication, how can I handle it? For example, I want to access my private account and see data on that. And in this moment, I have my fingerprints of my smartphone, and so that I can enable the protected data to be read. What can I do with voice recognition and Alexa skills or whatever?
So to answer the first question first, so which one should I pick, basically? I think it's the same as for the smartphone market. In the beginning, you had the Windows platform, you had the Apple platform and the Android platform, and most companies basically picked the solutions that were used most in their market. So I would say look at how many of your customers are using Alexa or Google or whatever, and try to focus first on the one that's used most, maybe then on the one that's used second most. Because yeah, you cannot really say that one is better than the other. Maybe they are better, but if the one has better marketing, then probably more customers will use it. So it's not like you can say pick this or pick that, I think. Regarding authentication and making sure things like fingerprints work, I think it's quite difficult because fingerprint with voice recognition, yeah, you can wave, but Alexa won't recognize your fingerprint. But in theory, I mean, you can use any Java classes available. So you could program all kinds of custom security in it to maybe do things based on the ID of the Alexa that's being used. Or some things like that. But I haven't seen anything like that yet. I have to admit that most of the skills that I've seen were still quite, how you call it, premature. Like you saw with apps on a smartphone in the beginning, it was only simple games that were coming out, and later it became more advanced. And I think that's also what's happening with voice recognition software. So I think a lot is possible because you can use any Java thing that you want. I mean, I use Spring Boot, which is quite heavy. And could use any Spring Boot feature. So, yeah, mostly it's your imagination is the limit, almost. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi. So, if you develop one skill for one language, it means that it will work only for that language, specific language, right? So you don't have one skill for multiple languages.
That actually is a good question, which I never got until today. And I have to say, I don't know the answer out of my head, but the fact that I'm using utterances which are in a specific language probably means that it's language specific. However, I could, of course, add extra utterances. And I could add utterances in different languages. But I don't know how Amazon processes it, if it works. So it's a good question that, yeah, I would have to figure it out as well.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, I installed it on Raspberry Pi, and by default installation there is English. Then I enable Italian, but now he understands English and Italian together. Because if I said Alexa, do something in English, or Alexa, fai qualcosa in italiano, it executes it.
Yeah, but that's like the standard software that Alexa provides. I don't know if it works the same for the skills you write yourself. Because maybe Amazon wrote everything multi-language, and you have to do it yourself for the skills. I don't know exactly how that works, but it's an interesting one if you want to use the same skill in different countries, yeah.
Okay. And I have another question. Have you tried to change wake word engine like Snowboy or there are a couple of others.
You mean changing it to, for instance, computer or?
Yeah, when I install it on Raspberry or somewhere.
On Raspberry. I see time is over. I didn't try that. No, sorry. So thank you all for joining, and have a good conference.